Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be discussing Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. I want to note that we are reviewing the book, not the film. If you'd like to see a film review, I did one with my friend Alexander over on another channel that we work on together called Trad Reviews Live. I'll put a link in the description as well as a card if you want to go check that out. We do talk about the novel as well, but I'm not doing a film review here. I'm talking about the book. And I suppose I'll start by talking about the importance for me of making sure that I'd read the book before I'd watched the film. Was I had a Project Hail Mary myself, just the way that my schedule had worked and when I was available to see the film. I ended up finishing the book with 5% battery on my Kindle about 5 minutes before I walked into the movie theater. I was even reading some of it up here while I was driving. So I had a bit of a Project Hail Mary myself, just finishing the book. But overall, I tend to characterize it. I've said this to everybody. If you read The Martian, this is The Martian in space as a buddy comedy of sorts. There's a lot to like about this novel. It is the reason I say it's essentially The Martian is because if you watch that film, and I think there's a similar dialogue in the book, you're just solving problems, and if you solve enough problems, you get to come home. And what's fun about the book is you're walking through science problems over and over. And if you like solving problems and if you like science, there's a lot to love about the book. But it's not just that. And I think that's what's great about The Martian and what's great about this is that there's so much more that's being discussed. There's questions of friendship, self-sacrifice, how an ordinary person can become an extraordinary person, how we're dealing with people who are others, in this case, the Iridian, this alien creature standing in for anyone who is very, very different from you. As always, science fiction is a way to talk about the present by using future frames to give us distance. So it was not a page turner in the sense of I had to keep reading. I couldn't put it down. That wasn't the case for me. I did have a mission. I needed to finish it before the film, and I didn't finish explaining. The reason I thought that was important was I wanted to have a construct of the storyline before I went to the film because I knew the film was going to make adaptations, going to make changes, going to potentially have a different ending. I had no idea, but I wanted to have an idea in my head of what the characters looked and felt like before I saw the film. I'm not saying that's the only way to do it. That's just how I did it, and that's why I had the urgency to finish, and I'm glad that I did. As for the adaptation itself, the film, as I say, this isn't a film review, so head over to my film review. I'm just going to stay focused on the book. It's about 500 pages, and you're going to have a lot of those technical explanations in the book, and it's really focused around Dr. Grace's character. Now, some might ask the question, what is this deal with Project Hail Mary and a Dr. Ryland Grace? So Grace helps Hail Mary succeed. It's interesting that for me, there's a clear religious angle here, but it's not at all clear that Andy Weir had anything in his mind about that. And I've done some just very preliminary research on the internet. It doesn't seem like this is anything that Weir intended. Just the idea of a Hail Mary exists in American popular culture in relation to a last chance effort, usually in American football. So people who are outside the United States might not understand that relationship, why that's called a Hail Mary. But the effort of this relates to all the nations of the earth coming together to solve a problem, much like what we saw in The Martian. Now, is this credible? I'm thinking about this in relation now to what we're experiencing at the time of this recording, which is early April 2026, in relation to the Strait of Hormuz situation, that this is something that involves the entire world in some way or another. There is a clear antagonist or antagonists, in this case, the United States and Israel. There are tacit allies, the GCC countries, and then broader allies, you could say NATO, Europe, other countries who don't want to take a side or don't want to oppose the United States. So it seems that when there is a crisis that is going to cause trouble to many other nations, we cannot come up with a consensus even in a very quick time. So there is a notion in both The Martian and in Project Hail Mary that, oh no, if there is a crisis, actually we will all get together. I think that's naive. And it's alluded to later in the book that if there is going to be a climate problem, people are going to fight. They're not going to come together. So both ideas are presented within the same text, that the nations came together to produce a solution, but if the solution doesn't work, it's going to be every nation or every person for himself. So I think that's interesting to think about in relation to what's going on now. How will this Iran crisis play out? How will the world reconfigure when something has happened that has not happened before? I also appreciate the scientific method being brought up over and over and over in the text. Something has happened. I don't know why it happened. Let's go figure it out. And that's the premise for the novel. Something is happening to our sun, but if we look at the other stars that we can see, it's not happening to this one star. So scientific method, let's go out there. It's 12 light years away. We'll go out there. It's going to take, a dozen years for you to get out there, and a dozen years for your answer to come back to us. But that's the only solution, and that's the scientific method. I've got to go find out. I've got to test theories, and we see that played over and over as he keeps trying to solve solutions. And there is that same sense of urgency that Weir uses in The Martian, that the crises keep coming back to back. You have a little moment to breathe, and then something happens. But because I knew Weir was doing that, I wasn't compelled. And I suppose the story wasn't strong enough for me to feel, I've got to find out what happens next. It wasn't that kind of urgency. It was just, I knew something was going to happen. So that at some point, they've just solved a major problem collecting a sample from the planet they've called Adrian, which matches the alien's name, Rocky. And then the power goes out in the ship. And that's the end of that chapter. I knew that was the device Weir was using, so I didn't feel, I had to read what was going on. I thought, okay, well, something's going to happen here. So that's what I mean between your standard narrative urgency, that, okay, the plot keeps moving forward, and the unput-downable nature of a particular text I couldn't stop reading, which I shared happened when I read The Three-Body Problem, which if you haven't seen my review, I'll put a link in the description as well as a card. That pulled me forward. I could not stop reading that book once it got past a certain page. That's not the case here with Project Hail Mary. I'm happy to be disagreed with. I'm happy if anybody who's watching this in the premiere or later on to contradict me. Please let me know what you're thinking. And if you think I should read Weir's Artemis, which I think is another book, does he use this formula all the time? It's the exact same one that was in The Martian. And I liked it. And I've said before, when I reviewed Asimov's Pebble in the Sky, I'll put another link in the description as well as a card. If you like a formula, don't be afraid of it. Don't be ashamed of it. I like Asimov's formulas. That's why I like reading Asimov books. I don't love Weir's construct, his formula, but I don't hate it. I enjoy it. But I don't love it in the same way that I love Asimov. So we'll see how this develops. The book came out, I want to say, in 2021, and here it is, 2026. There's already a film adaptation. So Weir has got a pipeline to Hollywood. I mean, how fast will his next one be adapted? Who knows? But as I say, if you want to head over and see my movie review, check that out. Leave your comments, questions, as always. If you'd like to thank me for this presentation, there's a link to PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee. If you just want to thank me for free, there's like and subscribe, hype, whatever you'd like to do to share this video with friends and other people who might be interested. If you want to get access to early releases of videos like this one, there is YouTube membership and Patreon. There's details in the description. If you'd like to nominate a book for the future, my Amazon wish list is below. You'll see books on Palestine. That's obviously for my Palestine bookshelf project, if you want to go check that out. But if it's not on Palestine, it's for this channel. Buy a book, send it my way, and I'll do my best to review it in a timely manner. Until next time, enjoy your reading.